What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and this is my second video for today, the one that's going to be discussing Tua and who decided to pick him. Hopefully it's going to be a little bit shorter than my last video, so let's get right into it. So there's this article that I got on Bleacher Report from 24/7 Sports, and it's Tua Tagovaoiloa was an ownership pick by Miami Dolphins. Okay, interesting. Not surprising by any stretch of the imagination, but let's see what they have to say. The Miami Dolphins did all they could leading into the NFL draft to keep their preferred pick of Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa under wraps, even signaling smokescreens of a possible selection of Oregon's Justin Herbert, but it was clear early in the process that ownership was going to make sure the lefty was the franchise's guy if they couldn't land a more proven player, according to Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio. There's reports all over the place as to who's going to be the starter week one. Will Fitzpatrick be the starter all year? Will they put Tua in at some point? I talked to somebody over the weekend who is committed to the concept that Tua Tagovailoa was an ownership pick, period. Florio said recently on Pro Football Talk Live. Not a coach pick, not a GM pick, an ownership pick. Steve Ross wanted a franchise quarterback, couldn't get him, settled on Tua. I think Brian Flores is going to put the best guy out there. If Tua is better than Fitz, he plays. If Fitz is better than Tua, he plays, period. It's not about developing Tua. It's not about trying to help him get to his ceiling. Slow the game down like it could have been for Josh Rosen last year. The better guy is going to play. So let's pause right there for a second because there's a couple things that I want to say. One, as I told you, they were going to take whichever quarterback Stephen Ross was in love with. Okay, now I personally went back and forth a little bit. For a majority of the time I thought it was Tua. There was a period there leading up to the draft that I thought they were just going to say fuck it, go up to the number one pick and take Joe Burrow. To be fair, they proved me wrong about those things, right, or about that in particular. But they did prove me right at the end of the day when I said that no matter what, the baseline prediction is that they're going to take the quarterback that Stephen Ross is in love with. Okay, and then my specific prediction of who they would take and where changed a little bit and ended up being wrong because I landed on that they were going to take Joe Burrow with the number one pick. They did not do that. They did not trade up, in fact, and they stayed put. But I did end up being correct that they would take Tua, and ultimately I was correct that they were going to take the quarterback that Ross was in love with. Also, again, it's not a coach pick, not a GM pick. Now, this is just one article, to be fair, but I mean, it's what I expected, and I mean, it couldn't be more clear, right? We had the reports that he went to Adam Gase and said, I want you to tank the 2019 season so that way we can get a franchise quarterback. Gase said no. He got fired. Brian Flores got brought in, who quickly acquiesced to his tanking philosophy. They tanked last year for a quarterback so they could get a high enough pick to where they could either fucking take a guy outright in the top 5, or if they needed to, they had a bunch of draft capital they could trade up if they needed to as well. So they made sure to have their bases covered to get the quarterback that they wanted. Right? So, you know, I mean, does he play? Does he not play? I still think that question is obviously up in the air. But it's interesting. He says it's not about developing Tua or trying to get him to help his ceiling. That's actually really concerning to me. Really concerning to me, because if that's the case, then that means, I mean, he's going to beat out Fitzpatrick unquestionably in training camp. I can't imagine that he won't. Especially if the part about it being a Stephen Ross pick is true. Another real quick note, though. In 2018, when they picked Minkah Fitzpatrick, let's also note that there were reports that Stephen Ross didn't want Minkah. He wanted a quarterback, but after the Cardinals jumped us to the number 10 spot to take Rosen and all the quarterbacks were off the board, Ross wanted to trade back. So let's keep that in mind as well. That's other context that makes this absolutely believable. So, but if it is true, you know, that Tua was his guy and Stephen Ross just was in love, then, I mean, look, you know, especially with the way he's moving around, his medical checks, all that stuff, I mean, I still think it's probably a little bit more likely that Ryan Fitzpatrick will start the season, but you know, as we get closer and more information and stuff comes out, I mean, a lot of it, as usual, is speculation. But I think that there is definitely a good possibility that Tua starts week 1 if there is a week 1. But I find it absolutely unimaginable that he won't play the entire season if, you know, the entire season plays out, which I'm still yet not convinced is going to happen. So, but yeah, and so we'll have to wait and see. But if it's not about developing him or helping him, you know, reach his ceiling or slow down the game, that could be a major problem, both in the short term and the long term, because it could get him hurt now. It could, you know, if the offensive line is garbage and he fucking, you know, runs around all over the place trying to save his life because he's being chased all the time, you know, maybe bad habits could develop, or he could get injured. All kinds of things that could happen from that, could arise from that would be terrible. So that's concerning. But we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Ryan Fitzpatrick will enter fall camp as Miami's projected QB1 and won't relinquish the job if he has his say. Fitzpatrick recently acknowledged he felt like the Dolphins were playing their best ball late in the season after Miami went 3-2 in December. The 13 starts last fall, Fitzpatrick threw for 3,529 yards, completing 62% of his passes with 20 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. Solid stat line, of course. I'm going to do the best I can to help Tua to make sure our position is doing the things to make our team win, Fitzpatrick said. That's my mentality. That's how I think about it. You know me very well from last year, and you know I want to be out there competing on Sundays. ESPN NFL insider Jeff Darlington said last month Miami's quarterback situation couldn't be any better for the franchise. That's debatable, but we'll see, and it largely depends on how they handle these guys and what they do. Ryan Fitzpatrick might ultimately go down if this is a thing as the greatest bridge quarterback in the history of the NFL. Again, I think that's probably a bit far, but okay, whatever, it's his opinion. Darlington said on Get Up, in this particular situation, when you've got a guy coming in with health concerns, by the way, every time I bring up to the Dolphins, when do you think we'll see Tua on the field, they throw their hands up at me and basically say, what do you want from us? We haven't even looked at the guy since before the combine. Yeah, but they've also been they've had him under a microscope. Well, first of all, I don't actually necessarily believe that, but they've also had him under a fucking microscope and clearly didn't care about taking him 5th overall or, you know, whatever, putting out smoke screens and shit like that to ensure they got him. They don't care about his health concerns that much. So, all right, well, we'll see. They don't know when he's going to be on the field. Normally, GMs are going to say that the rookie isn't going to get on the field and that rookie ultimately does. But in this case, it actually makes sense why Tua wouldn't get on the field right away. It makes sense, but is that what they do? You've got Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is the ultimate competitor, and he's beloved within the organization. I think they would hire him right now for some lifetime position. I don't even know what it would be. Quite honestly, I don't know if it equates to wins, but it's the perfect situation to bridge one quarterback to the next. It's an all right situation. It's a solid situation. But again, a lot of that depends on how they handle it. If there is a season that plays out and they decided to just redshirt him the entire year, let him get comfortable in the NFL, get adjusted, learn the playbook, learn his teammates, etc. Maybe, get some live action reps. I don't know, if they're just like stomping a team, which would be awesome, right? If they're just like destroying a team and, they want to take the starter out, maybe, whatever, right? But redshirt him, let him get adjusted, learn the playbook and his teammates, build, whatever. And then, put him out the next year. But if they I think playing him at any point, and then of course, get fully healthy, have another, like a full year, over a year, like a year and a half or whatever, in between his injury and the time he actually plays again. I think that would be phenomenal on handling him. I think playing him at all this year would be too soon. Playing him at the beginning of the year is a massive risk and I think would be absolutely foolish, especially because then even if let's say this offensive line does turn out to be great, which I have my doubts about, but if they did, they're still going to take some time to get there, especially with the way the offseason program has been, you know, hindered and so on and so forth. So they're not going to be there right away. So even if, you know, halfway through the season, they get it right and fucking start, you know, blah, 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 opening up holes and letting up like almost no sacks, etc. It's going to take a fucking minute, especially with some of these really young, raw players that they have. And so, you know, the first half of the season could be rough. And if they put him out there, then they dramatically increase the chance that he gets hurt again or something like that. So that would be a terrible idea to have him start week 1, but it is on the table and it is a possibility. All right. With that, guys, I'm going to get up out of here. I hope you guys enjoy and appreciate my views and perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. And, of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. See y'all soon. Fins up.